I'm Dwight Drummond, and tonight a violent few days in the city.
They're devastated, man, traumatized. We're doing everything we can at this point to get as much resources here as quickly as we can.
A shooting at a one-year-old's birthday party leaves a child in critical condition. This as a man in his 20s was shot and killed in Clearview Heights this morning. Plus, changes are coming to Canada's border. We have the latest on new rules for fully vaccinated adults and why they don't apply to some children. And
I just want to get the shot so we can open everything back up.
as Ontario ramps up efforts to get second doses into arms, a shipment delay of vaccines could leave some people waiting. Police have made an arrest in a weekend shooting at a one-year-old's birthday party. It left 4 people injured, including 3 children. One of them is still fighting for her life in hospital. Dale Manuknuk has been on the scene on Tangers Crescent in Rexdale and joins us now with the latest. And Dale, what do we know about the person police just charged?
Yeah, Dwight, you mentioned that 4 people were injured, including 3 children. Well, the other shooting victim, a 24-year-old man who was shot in the leg, has now been arrested and faces several charges. Demar Cadigan of Toronto is charged with discharge of a firearm with intent, possession of a loaded gun, and possession of a firearm without a license. Now, residents of this crescent here, where this incident took place, they say that this is just their reality and speaks to a larger problem of gun violence in Toronto. This is the moment a 1-year-old baby boy was stretchered off after being grazed by a bullet during his birthday party. Residents in the area are fed up. The only time their community gets attention is when there's tragedy.
Everybody runs in and tries to get clout off of our trauma. They try to get clout off of our lack. They get clout off of our poverty.
Marcel Wilson, a former gang leader and community activist, spoke on behalf of the mother of the 1-year-old child.
They're devastated, man, traumatized. We're doing everything we can at this point to get as much resources here as quickly as we can.
Resources. It's what many residents, including this one who wish to go unnamed, says would curb violence in not just this community, but all impoverished ones.
You eliminate 90% of the issues that these youth have to even consider to do something like this.
Last night, another incident of gun violence left a 20-year-old man dead. It happened in the area of Clearview Heights and Trethaway Drive, steps away from where another man was shot and killed just last week. According to data from Toronto Police Services, there have already been 164 shootings and firearm discharges this year. Just 5 off the total from 2019. There were 203 in 2020.
What's concerning about these recent shootings is the brazenness of the shootings. Children at a birthday party for a 1-year-old, with everybody having fun.
This area in particular needed some special attention. Unfortunately, we have to see things like this to happen in order to get the attention that's much needed for this area.
Now, Dwight, an update on the condition of the children. Toronto police say that the 5-year-old girl who faced life-threatening injuries as a result of the Saturday shooting is still in critical condition. The 11-year-old boy and 1-year-old boy who were injured have been released from hospital. Now, the investigation is ongoing. Yesterday, police said that they were looking for multiple suspects, multiple shooters who they believe fled on foot southbound towards a getaway car. They haven't released any descriptions of the suspects or the vehicle and are asking that anybody with information come forward. Dwight.
Thank you for this, Dale. A man has been charged with poisoning the cereal of 2 children in early March, one of whom died. Toronto police say the 45-year-old man got an identified controlled substance from his work and put it into the kids' breakfast cereal while they were at a sleepover. Both of the children were sent to hospital. One of them, 3-year-old Bernice Marembe, died. Her mother wrote in a GoFundMe post that she quickly grew weak, was vomiting and barely breathing by the time she picked her up. Police say the family and the accused, Francis Ngugi, are known to each other. The other child stayed in hospital for a period but has since recovered. A 24-year-old man was arrested and charged on Saturday in connection to an alleged hate-motivated attack. It happened at the ferry docks on Toronto Island on June 5th. The victim, David Gomez, shared his story on social media. He said he was walking with his roommate at night when they were circled by a group of individuals who started hurling homophobic slurs. That's when Toronto police say a woman grabbed the victim and the suspects punched and kicked him. Police are still looking for 2 women in their 20s who were there that night. They'd like to speak to them as witnesses in this investigation. investigation. Police announced Saturday that Elijah McGibbon has been charged with 1 count of aggravated assault and is due to appear in court in July. In a statement sent by his lawyer, Gomez said he is somewhat comforted by the police investigation led to an arrest and that he will continue to cooperate with police and the investigation and want the individuals responsible for his assault to be held accountable. And Toronto police are asking for the public's help in finding a man wanted for first-degree murder. The accused is 22-year-old Hassan Ali, also known as the rapper Top 5. He's wanted in connection to a fatal North York shooting that happened in January. Investigators believe Ali traveled to Kelowna and Calgary. They say he is considered violent and are asking anyone with information to come forward. As COVID-19 cases drop and vaccinations ramp up in Canada, Ottawa is revisiting border restrictions. It has announced it will be easing some measures at entry points starting July 5th. The federal government is calling this the first phase of its cautious plan toward reopening. But as Ashley Burke reports, some are feeling left out.
As Canada's vaccination rates rise, signs life is slowly returning to normal. But that stops at the border.
We've reached an important threshold, but we haven't reached the finish line. There's a lot more work to do.
Canada remains closed to non-essential travel and foreign nationals. But as of July 5th, there will be easing of restrictions for some Canadians and permanent residents.
Fully vaccinated travelers who are permitted to enter Canada will no longer be subject to the federal requirement to quarantine.
Everyone else is still required to do so and stay at the federally regulated hotels, even though a month ago an advisory panel called the hotel program flawed and called for it to end.
I'm heartbroken. I'm desperate to see my daughters.
Canadian Anna Marie Beckel said her 2 American daughters haven't been able to visit her for 15 months. Both are fully vaccinated.
I do not understand what the difference is between a fully vaccinated Canadian and a fully vaccinated American.
The big question remains, when will Canada open the border to tourism? Today, the government shared one possible way forward.
So one metric that Canadians can watch for is the rate of fully vaccinated Canadians that is at least 75%.
The government said it's also looking at case rates, hospitalizations, and ICU admissions.
Social distancing.
The airline industry says it's stuck planning in the dark with thousands of workers laid off and furloughed and no end in sight.
We don't have a plan, we have a puzzle. We have a series of piecemeal announcements and promised future piecemeal announcements on what may occur. And we're all desperately trying to put this together to make sense of it. And that is not the way forward.
The government also announced that non-vaccinated children will have to quarantine for 14 days, even though their vaccinated parents won't have to. The government says that's a way to prevent the virus from spreading at schools and daycares. Ashley Burke, CBC News, Ottawa.
Ontario's medical officer of health says he is reassured by Ontario's COVID-19 trends over the past week, but he adds it's not time to let our guards down.
We've had a couple of places that jumped up. Even in our area of Porcupine is settling down at this moment. Our James Bay coast area seems to be settling down at this time. We're still watching carefully, as well as some of the areas in the Waterloo-Kitchener area is also settling down to some extent, and we want to watch that. So we're remaining steadfast and making sure our public measures are working as we get the vaccine rollout continuing.
Ontario reported just 217 new COVID-19 cases today. That comes with just under 14,000 tests completed. The province logged a test positivity rate of 2.5%, down from 2.8 last Monday. The province says while these are positive trends, it's important to keep following public health guidelines and to get vaccinated as soon as you are eligible. Ontario also says anyone who received a Pfizer vaccine for their first dose and is now eligible for their second should feel safe getting Moderna. Right now, Ontario has a large supply of Moderna on hand, and the latest shipment of Pfizer has been delayed. Greg Ross is live tonight for us outside of Scotiabank Arena. And Greg, thousands of vaccines will be available in less than a week right there. So what exactly does the city have planned?
Well, Dwight, this coming Sunday is being dubbed Toronto Vaccine Day. So the city will join forces with MLSE, and they're going to try and set a single-day record for vaccinations. And they plan to try and give as many as 10,000 vaccines right here at Scotiabank Arena. But some people right now are hesitant to book appointments to get vaccinated. And one of the big reasons is the fact that right now the province is offering Moderna and not Pfizer.
I had the first shot 27 days ago.
When Andre Rotek booked his appointment for his second vaccine dose at the Metro Convention Center, he didn't realize the shot available to him was Moderna, not Pfizer, which he was given for his first shot. Now he has reservations about going ahead with his appointment, which is booked for tomorrow.
I haven't heard about anybody doing the study on how the mixing of two vaccines works.
There were many in the same boat going in for their second dose today. Some didn't realize until they showed up to get their shot, but most we spoke to didn't have any issues mixing vaccines.
I just want to get the shot so we can open everything back up.
I'm just happy to get the first shot you can get.
I just want to be fully vaccinated at the end of the day, and they're both mRNA vaccines.
Dr. Isaac Bogosh with the Ontario Vaccine Task Force says there's no reason people should be concerned about mixing Pfizer with Moderna.
We know that the vaccines work in an identical manner. They're both mRNA vaccines. When you line up the data head to head, they both have very similar safety profiles. They have very similar efficacy.
No reason to believe that there could be any unforeseen side effects because they are such similar vaccines.
I can't see any.
Bogosh says with the more transmissible Delta variant starting to spread, it's better to be fully vaccinated now rather than waiting to avoid mixing. But he also says there's no reason to be overly concerned if some people elect to wait.
If people are concerned and if people are going to wait, they're probably not going to have to wait too long. It looks like that Pfizer shipment's going to be coming in probably later this week or before the end of the month.
Now, they do have some Pfizer doses on hand at these clinics, and the reason for that is because only people 18 and over have been approved for Moderna. So anyone in the 12 to 17 age range coming for a second shot would have gotten Pfizer for their first, and they're only approved to get Pfizer's second shot, Dwight.
Thank you, Greg. We're getting to the final days of the school year before summer break, but with Ontario students still learning at home, it's really a countdown until we know what learning will look like come September. The goal is to have kids back in classrooms, but parents and experts still have concerns about poor ventilation and how that could spread COVID-19. Angelina King has more on what is being done.
Tiffany Thornton wants her kids in class this fall, but she's worried about poor ventilation. Their Mississauga school is old with no air conditioning, and as of now, her kids are too young to get vaccinated.
So it needs to be safe for them to reduce the transmission, but also so that they can stay in school. In and out has just been really difficult for both the kids and for us as parents.
While her eldest will be in class, Thornton is considering keeping her youngest in daycare instead of sending him to junior kindergarten.
JK virtually is just not a great option. So, you know, it's a debate of whether do we go into JK in the public system or do we stay in daycare where I know it's a newer facility, I know the ventilation's better.
We do have some fraction of our schools that don't have any mechanical ventilation at all.
Epidemiologist David Fisman says since COVID spreads through aerosols, proper ventilation is the key to safety if kids aren't vaccinated.
The CBC put out data showing us that when schools improve their ventilation and when they use air cleaners like HEPA filters, plug-in HEPA filters, they reduce transmission in schools by 50%.
The Education Ministry says it's improving ventilation in more than 95% of Ontario's schools. In Toronto, the TDSB says it has HEPA filters in all classrooms, portables, and wellness rooms, has upgraded more than 450 schools to add full or partial mechanical ventilation, but 58 schools still rely on windows. It's also approved 170 ventilation projects for this summer. The TCDSB says schools have upgraded to hospital-grade filters, and for classrooms without mechanical ventilation, more than 5,000 portable HEPA filters have been installed. And the Peel Board, where Thornton's kids attend, say it's also upgraded to those hospital-grade filters and has standalone units for classrooms that rely on doors and windows for airflow. Thornton says she hasn't heard what's being done in her children's school specifically.
At this point, it kind of feels like we're in an information vacuum.
Whatever it may be, Thornton hopes she's in the know soon, so she has enough time to make a decision on where to send her youngest for a safe school year. Angelina King, CBC News, Toronto.
You can find out what your local school board is doing when it comes to ventilation. Find those details on our website, cbc.ca/Toronto. We know you don't control it, Colette, but thank you for a wonderful Father's Day. The weather was perfect for us.
Yes, and I'm so glad that that happened for so many dads, that you could enjoy yourselves. And, you know, we are seeing summer came in late last night, but really today we're seeing the first full day officially of summer 2021. And if we take you back to 2 o'clock, look at the temperatures here, okay? Because it was already starting to cool down in Windsor a little bit, but Barrie's at 26, Toronto 27 at that point. And then we pop up to 29 degrees in the city. And look what happens in Barrie, 10-degree temperature difference. Why? Because of that cold front coming through. The wind's getting stronger, shifting from the southwest around to a more northwesterly flow, and then over into eastern Ontario at 4 p.m. Still hadn't passed through the nation's capital, so the temperature there is still at 29 in Toronto as well. They're still upper 20s, and here we are at 22 degrees because the front is past here. It's going to clear eastern Ontario shortly as well. Lots of active weather, especially stateside now and over into eastern Ontario and southern Quebec associated with this front. Here's the big picture here. All of these blue things, there's so many of them, they kind of come together in a blob. Those are lightning strikes. This is a little bit ahead, but that's basically where our cold front is now. And so for those of you who just don't like this humidity, we are going to be seeing that just dropping off significantly. A few of those showers that were still around, those are also dying off very, very quickly. So tonight you're going to see a low of 10 degrees and tomorrow 19. That's it. Wait for the high.
We'll take it. Thank you, Colette.
You're welcome.
This weather update is brought to you by Train. For a limited time, take advantage of 36 equal payments and 0% financing. It's hard to stop a train.
Today is National Indigenous Peoples Day, a time to celebrate the culture, heritage, and contributions of First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. This year is especially poignant following the discovery of the remains of 215 children at the site of a former residential school in Kamloops, BC. Kelly Yoon has more on how the day is being marked here in the GTA.
This year, like the last, many events are being held online.
We're giving thanks to through the fire. We use the sacred fire.
Instead of gathering at Nathan Phillips Square, the city commemorating the day with a virtual guided explanation of the sunrise ceremony.
What they represent is 13 moons.
Indigenous Peoples Day month is a chance to raise awareness of the history of the land, your history, all of our history.
It also coincided with the official grand opening of the Mount Dennis Aboriginal Child and Family Services Center.
This center is one step, only one step, but it is a step, a significant step in the right direction.
The center, like the one already established in Malvern, will focus on the cultural needs of the Indigenous community through programs and services developed by them.
Not only did they want a space where they could bring their children to come and learn, they wanted ceremony, they wanted culture, they wanted land, they wanted youth services, they wanted food security.
Today's event's also a time of deep reflection as the country undergoes a reckoning with the discovery of children's remains at a former residential school in Kamloops, BC.
It's a stark reminder of Canada's colonial past.
In the city's West Donlands, a celebration to mark the groundbreaking on Ontario's first mixed-use Indigenous hub also carried a theme of reconciliation.
By not forgetting that our collective hearts shattered and trembled upon learning about the findings of the remains of 215 Indigenous children.
The hub will be the new home of Anishinaabe Health Toronto and include an employment and training center, a daycare, family services, as well as rental apartments.
This project was framed as a reconciliation project.
It's about placemaking as well. Many of the cultures in the city, of course, have a place, locations in terms of their communities. And now we have one. We're here to, I guess, celebrate a step closer to a dream that started many, many years ago.
Kelda Yoon, CBC News, Toronto.
Still ahead, empowering women and breaking down barriers through biking.
Some of our members, they said, oh, when I'm biking, I'm feeling that I'm flying.
We'll introduce you to an inclusive initiative that aims to help immigrant women put the rubber to the road next. Ontario announced a $4 million investment to support current and future construction workers across our province, with a focus on getting more youth and women into the sector.
While many of us have been working online and at home, construction workers have remained on their job sites every single day. It's on their backs that we have the homes our families live in, the schools where we learn, and the hospitals that have been critical to all of us over the last 18 months.
In the fourth quarter of 2020, McNaughton said there were just under 12,000 job vacancies in the sector. Part of Ontario's investment will focus on training 460 construction apprentices, which are in increasingly high demand. McNaughton says the money will also support 5 other projects. Those will be aimed at developing rural parts of Ontario and offering mental health supports to current workers. If your bike has been sitting idle, a Toronto area group has an idea on how you could put it to good use. The Bike Match project pairs people who have bikes they're not using with immigrant women who need them. We spoke to organizers about how the program is growing in popularity.
I love biking. I love biking. You know, it gave me a sort of very good energy. Our role, my role, or Women Cycling Net role, members' role, is to promote or encourage women biking. I always name our biking as a wheels of empowerment. It was not only take them out of the stress, depression they were at home, but give freedom to certain of women.
The culture at that time, it was like a little bit of restriction, especially to biking for the girls. I quit that time.
We even didn't know how to bike on the road. That we came together, about 4 or 5 of us, and we biked in this parking lot.
For first session, it was a little bit difficult. I fall so many times.
First days, even the family member was not sure if they should bike. Mommy, don't go you might fall, and what the people will say if you bike, it is not good for us, etc. When I learned, and we were 15 women, and this 15 women, first they learned. And now we have about 100 members.
After my third time, I was, balanced myself very well. I couldn't believe. I make a video. I send those videos to my family back home, and especially my husband and my kids encouraging me to continue.
When we went to trails like Don Valley trails and others, some of our members, they said, "Oh, when I'm biking, I'm feeling that I'm flying,"
Not just an exercise, it will be help us. They will be more confident when they ride bike. That's why I'm very happy.
Also call for all those people that they have a bike sitting in their garage and they don't use it. Any bike that is workable, we will welcome to have it.
When I received, I was very happy because I had a tour with my bike, especially during the COVID, the pandemic. When I ride bike, I'm feeling I'm more confident than the driving.
Wild weather in Quebec. A tornado has been confirmed near Montreal. Colette will have more on this and a storm system heading our way after the break. The man accused of targeting a Muslim family in a deadly attack made a very brief court appearance this morning. 20-year-old Nathaniel Veltman's video appearance lasted all of 2 minutes, and the court learned he's in talks with Toronto lawyer Christopher Hicks. Veltman's accused of running down 5 family members with a pickup truck 2 weeks ago. A 9-year-old boy is the only survivor. He faces 4 first-degree murder charges, 1 attempted murder charge, and associated terrorism charges. He will remain in custody until his next court appearance, which is scheduled for June 28th. A Guelph man has pleaded guilty to leaving Canada to participate in the activity of a terrorist group. Ikar Now and his wife Halima Mustafa were detained in Turkey in July 2019 after family members alerted officials that they might be planning to join the terrorist group. Mao was arrested and charged in November 2019 with participating in a terrorist group and leaving Canada to participate in the activities of a terrorist group. 9 months later, Mustafa was also arrested in Pickering and charged with the same offenses. Mao admitted in court to traveling to Turkey for the express purpose of crossing the border into Syria and making himself available to ISIS. Federal prosecutors withdrew a second charge against Mao and say they expect to stay all charges against his wife. It is election day in Ethiopia. The incumbent prime minister, whose party came to power promising to end decades of authoritarian rule, is now being accused of trying to become another dictator. And even as millions cast their vote, the country remains embroiled in a war in its northern region. Margaret Evans has more.
Abiy Ahmed's name rang through the crowd as the Ethiopian prime minister arrived to cast his ballot. His supporters call the vote a democratic dawn, with the Nobel laureate leading a charge towards reform.
The new government is just changing a lot and a lot of reformation in our country, and we need some change in our country.
Abiy's detractors say he is the opposite, a dictator in the making who cast his sheep's clothing aside early on. They point to the brutal war in the northern Tigray region, where Abiy denies his people face potential famine, despite claims to the contrary. The UN has accused Ethiopia of using food as a weapon of war, along with the Eritrean troops Abiy enlisted to help him fight rebels from Tigray's ousted ruling party.
The humanitarian situation is dire, with reports of denial of humanitarian access in some localities and looting of aid supplies by soldiers. An estimated 350,000 people are threatened by famine.
2 million people have been displaced by the fighting since last November. Allegations of atrocities on all sides.
Extrajudicial executions, arbitrary arrests and detentions, sexual violence against children as well as adults.
Voters lined up early in other parts of the country, but there will be no vote in Tigray, and in Oromia, the largest state, key parties are boycotting the election, citing intimidation.
Hundreds of our members, especially thousands of our supporters, detained across Oromia.
Analysts say there will be no peace for Ethiopia until it resolves tensions between centrists like Abiy and those who want more regional autonomy.
I think that there needs to be, in order for Ethiopia to move forward peacefully, a coming together of those perspectives.
Until then, the threads holding Ethiopia together will remain strained. Margaret Evans, CBC News, London.
Tropical storm Claudette is on its way northeast, possibly impacting Nova Scotia after making a deadly impact while lashing the U.S. southeast. The storm left a trail of damage over the weekend. It's being blamed for a horrific multi-vehicle crash on a wet interstate in Alabama that killed at least 10 people. 8 were children returning from a camp for at-risk youth. Another man and his baby, who was under a year old, were also killed.
We have approximately 130 homes that were damaged in this small neighborhood, and about 10 families are displaced right now.
Well, I've lived in Woodridge since 1967, and I do not personally remember any type of an event like this.
A series of tornadoes hit Illinois on Sunday as part of a separate weather system. 5 people were injured and several homes damaged. That outbreak happening just about 60 kilometers outside of Chicago. One resident said it felt like a freight train hitting their house. And take a look at these incredible videos from Quebec this afternoon. Environment Canada confirms a tornado touchdown near Mascouche, just northeast of Montreal. Our colleagues at CBC Montreal spoke to a worker at a nearby convenience store who saw it all.
Ça a duré une fraction de seconde, je vous dirais, moins 10 secondes à peu près. Là. C'est parti en arrière par la suite. Là. Il y a énormément de dégâts au niveau des toitures. Il y a des maisons qui ont été séparées en deux. Il y a des branches qui sont rentrées dans des maisons, des arbres qui sont tombés sur des véhicules. C'est sûr que j'ai eu peur. Moi, j'étais sûr que le magasin allait voler au complet. Moi, je me suis jeté par terre tellement que j'ai peur, écoutez, pour être sûr d'être en sécurité.
Colette, what can you tell us about this tornado?
Well, I'll fill you in on all the details. And you said it, Dwight. We're talking about 2 different systems, both incredibly destructive. So we have the cold front, and this is what the tornado in Quebec is associated with, and I'll get more on that in just a moment. But that front all the way back to still causing severe weather towards Kentucky. Then you have what was a depression because Claudette did weaken, and then it once again strengthened, becoming a tropical storm as it got back into some of the warmer waters here over the Gulf. So because of that, we are seeing it pushing towards, I'm just going to switch my clickers here and see if this one wants to work for me. We're seeing that is going to tag by Nova Scotia and towards the Avalon in Newfoundland and bring some heavy rains there. And the front that's caused this destructive weather, the same one that's just gone through here, right through the GTA in the last couple of hours, and really having an impact on the temperatures and humidity. A few areas getting some heavy downpours. But let's take you in for a closer look on the imagery of what's going on here, now moving into the eastern townships. And really all the atmospherics, all the dynamics were here. So we could almost see this coming. You just can't always pinpoint exactly where the tornadoes will show up. But we could show you those images again. And I'll tell you, we had the humidity, so the air was very, very buoyant in terms of what was there. And then with that front coming in, not just the cold front, but we also had the warm front edging in towards the Montreal region as well. And so along that, we could see the spin and rotation in the atmosphere, and that allowed the development of that tornado. So lucky that earlier there was a severe thunderstorm watch here towards the Niagara region, and lucky that that was dropped because the more active stuff continued on further east and further south of us. So we got off a little bit luckier here through the GTA in terms of the setup. Look at the change. We were up to 29 degrees this afternoon, and then in just the last few hours, look at that drop. Now at 22, whereas Ottawa is still sitting there in the high 20s at 28 degrees, and boy, the cool down they're feeling into cottage country. And it feels cooler because the winds have turned towards the northwest, so they're strong and gusty, and all the humidity being pulled out of the air as the new air mass moves in. So look at what's going on now with these humidex values. And again, you can compare and contrast with what's happening in Ottawa still and in Kingston. Hey, in those areas, it's going to be coming down very soon as well. So we will see quieter conditions overnight tonight, some clearing, skies kind of variable through the day tomorrow. A few little light pop-ups in a few cases, not much more than that. And then some kind of daytime heating as we get into Wednesday means we'll get a few more of these little showers that pop up, even though you've got sunny skies 1 minute, and then you see a shower and then it moves on. So nothing very significant. We will be closer to seasonal on Wednesday after tomorrow's cooler day of 19. And then we're going to do this all over again, Dwight. The temperatures are going to build, but so will the humidity as we go towards the end of the week.
And the roller coaster ride continues.
Yep, there it is.
Thank you, Colette.
You're welcome.
This is Indigenous Peoples Day in Canada. Light, warmth, and hope, all hallmarks of the first days of summer, are integral themes of the day, but this year's events have a somber tone. Cameron McIntosh has the story.
From the beat of drums at first light at a sunrise ceremony in St. John's.
We ask the Kipbu, the eagle, to carry our prayers up to the Creator.
To the chilling words of Mi'kmaq poet Cassidy Gallant in PEI.
Hiding from the ones who would take us away.
Her poem in honor of residential school children who never came home.
Hide and seek was the final game we played. Buried in the land, unspoken of until today.
A stark reminder of the loss she and many others live today.
I have a lot of generational trauma from that. I don't know my own language.
On the summer solstice across Turtle Island, Canada, marking National Indigenous Peoples Day, ceremonies subdued by the pandemic as the revelations of residential school children buried and forgotten in Kamloops again have the country grappling with a troubling past and present.
You should all feel extreme shame.
In the virtual House of Commons, the MP for Nunavut calling out the federal government for decades of neglect. And in Winnipeg, the launch of another season of searches for bodies of missing people in the city's rivers.
This is giving families hope. There's so many families in Manitoba that have missing loved ones.
Manitoba and Saskatchewan both announcing support today to search and commemorate residential school sites.
I think today is a good day for the walk, the reconciliation walk that we're all doing and sharing together.
The type of words to be expected on a day like today. Still, Chief Dennis Meaches is optimistic. Minds and hearts are opening.
I think people in general, Canadians in general, just being able to really come to terms with what happened.
But he says there's a long way to go. The stories will still be told.
Our graves unmarked, hidden in plain sight.
Not just to remember, says Gallant, but to guide the way forward. Cameron McIntosh, CBC News, Winnipeg.
As the school year wraps up, so does the term of the first Indigenous student trustee for the York Region District School Board. Ashton Wood, a grade 12 Newmarket student, is the first to hold the position. Jessica Chung spoke to her about her year and what she hopes for the future.
My year has definitely been one of the most fulfilled and one of the most hectic I have had.
When Ashton Wood was appointed as the first Indigenous student trustee at her school board, the Anishinaabe student knew she had to pave her own path.
Being the first one, it's one of those things where there are no stepping stones to cross a lake. In that sense, there's no bridge to cross over. You have to put the first ones down.
But she says it's been the most fulfilling thing she's ever done.
It's wonderful to see that this position even exists. Because as I was in elementary school, there was no Indigenous student trustee to be there for my voice. And there was no Indigenous student trustee for the others. And finally there is.
Wood says she's able to connect with other students like her because she's experienced racism throughout her life.
Grade 2, my braid got chopped off by another student on National Aboriginal Day. It was then put in my lunch bag with the scissors. I had students say not nice things. I was followed around a store in the mall. I didn't understand, and she said, well, I can't trust your type of people.
These experiences pushed Wood to become an advocate on social media, shedding light on Indigenous issues like missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls through her TikTok videos.
It's one of those things that can go far. It's one of those things that can travel. I've had some of my videos hit Australia. It's traveling to the other side of the world. So I know for a fact my videos hopefully are impactful and they do help.
Especially in a time when the Indigenous community is reeling after hundreds of children were located in unmarked burial sites in Kamloops, British Columbia.
When I heard it, it affected me. I was sitting on the couch crying about it because they were children. They were young as 3. They had ambitions, they had dreams, they had goals. But none of them came true. I'm sorry.
Wood hopes her term as the Indigenous student trustee marks the start of a change at her school board and is determined to continue her advocacy long after she leaves her post. What are you hoping for in the future?
That there's more. There's more of our Indigenous youth coming forward. There's more of us. I've never stopped saying I'm Indigenous because truthfully, those who decide to be racially or bullied just for someone's race isn't right. I should not have to be ashamed of saying I'm Indigenous. I'm proud to be Indigenous. I'm proud to be who I am.
Jessica Chung, CBC News, Toronto.
For residential school survivors like Freddie Taylor, there is still a lot of healing to be done. At age 5, he and his 3 older sisters were taken from their home in Curve Lake and brought to the Mohawk Residential School in Brantford. Taylor's hair was cut and he was beaten for not speaking English. His name was taken away and he was then called 39. Now at age 76, Taylor is an artist who uses his work as a way to cope with the pain he endured.
When we left the reserve, the government people came back and told my parents they took us, never to have anything to do with us. 10 years. Never seen my parents for 10 years, never heard from them. Black is beauty because I can put different colors in that black to make him come up beautiful. That's my dark life in the background. The colors that come blooming out of that black thing, that's me, the black world. In that little room, they gave me a number 39. And I never heard my name. I don't even know if my name is Fred Taylor, to tell you the truth. I had a crush on this little girl. My wife won't like this, you know, but I had a crush on this little girl, Velma Weeks, VW. And I had carved on a tree, 39 loves VW. And below that VW was number 9. And that was her number. And it's still there today. My culture that I came back to is my art. I've always wanted to be like an artist. A lot of people say, oh my God, that's a beautiful painting. But in reality, on my side, there's a lot of pain and anger and shame towards society for what that was done to me when I was a little kid. When the Creator gave us life to enjoy here on Mother Earth, He said that your life is a path, and in that path, you'll find hardships, heartaches, mistrust, anger, pain, and you'll survive if you walk the path, no matter how hard it is.
No matter how hard it is, Freddie Taylor's art can be seen at the Weetong Ojibwe Center in Curve Lake near Peterborough. You can read much more about his life and his art. Just head to cbc.ca/Toronto. Stay with us. We're coming right back. There are many arts and culture events linked to today's observance of National Indigenous Peoples Day. One is called the Honor Project, and it features artwork by top Indigenous artists. Here with more on this special initiative, as well as other related events to mark on your calendar, we're joined by arts reporter Yelena Adzik. And Yelena, tell us about the inspiration behind the Honor Project.
Well, this one is really quite heartfelt, Dwight, because this really came out after the news of the 215 children whose remains were found in the BC residential school. And I'm going to give you a look at some of the artwork that you're going to be seeing around the city. It will actually be across Canada. This is going to be on billboards. It will be towering over Canada's major highways, in subway systems, and in transit shelters. This is until the end of June, of course, National Indigenous Month. And the artwork that you're seeing here is really to try to honor those children. Colleen Gray, she was one of the participating artists. She's a watercolor artist as well as a Governor General Award winner. She said, quote, "I was inspired to paint my anger, but also to paint the peace and hope that I felt at these children reuniting with their ancestors." So that is called the Honor Project. And Dwight, that one launches today.
There's also a special awards ceremony taking place tomorrow. And who are the outstanding achievers being recognized at the Inspire Awards this year?
Okay, so Dwight, I love this. This is the Inspire Awards. It's a combination of Indigenous and Inspire. And I'm going to give you a look right now at their website. And you see there at the top, Leslie Hampton. That was one of the names, one of the 12 recipients who is an honoree for excellence. Now, Leslie Hampton has a fashion line, which is so young. I'm going to give you a look at that fashion line. As I tell you, she trained at George Brown College, Sheridan College, as well as the University of Toronto. She's presented at Indigenous Fashion Week Toronto, and she really feels that there needs to be more in terms of representation, not just with the models, but also with the clothing. You see some Indigenous artwork on it there. I'm going to have you listen to Leslie Hampton talk about what this all means to her.
To carry the title of youth recipient with so much strength and to push forward for authentic representation in fashion, film, and media. And that's really what I, as a designer, artist, and model, really hope to do.
I'm smiling as well because you can see that she's in her car. She was extremely dedicated. I wanted to interview her, and she made it happen despite being on location for an Indigenous community event. So it was really quite special. Let me give you a listen now to someone else I had a chance to connect with. His name is Thiland Kiknosque, and he is someone who is a hoop dancer. He's the youngest recipient ever. He actually won back in 2018, and he's going to be a presenter at the awards tomorrow. Got a lot of personal stories, Dwight. He has a history and a family who has really faced injustice, and I'm going to have you listen to his words right now.
To think about, the last residential school closed in 1996. That was basically, just a couple of years, before I was born, and that's really frightening to even imagine or think that what my parents had to go through, and we are the ones in this generation that are going to continue to tell the stories of our past and work on creating good memories and honoring our relatives in the future.
Wise words from a young man there. So that is going to be the Inspire Awards. They are taking place tomorrow night. So that's Tuesday night, and it's 8 p.m. It's going to air on CBC as well as APTN and CBC Gem. You can also catch it on CBC Radio 1. And this is something that will be special, not just certainly for Indigenous people across the country, but for all of us to honor these incredible, outstanding achievers.
And thank you for the correction earlier. It's important, folks, if they're looking it up, it's Indispire, so I-N-D. It's important to get that Indigenous in there. Thank you, Yelena.
You got it, Dwight.
As we head to break, let's take a look at where the markets closed today. The TSX up by 157 points. The Dow also up by 587. The dollar trading higher at 80.8 cents US. More breaking news for you on that tornado in Quebec. Our colleagues at Radio Canada have confirmed one person has died. The Canadian Red Cross is deploying teams to Mascouche. They say they're expecting to help 50 to 100 people displaced by the tornado that touched down there this afternoon. Northeast of Montreal, anybody who is displaced by the tornado can expect care for the next 72 hours from the Red Cross, including food and lodging. CBC News will have continuing coverage of this developing story on CBC News Network, and tonight on The National, who will have reporters live on the ground. That is our show for tonight. Thank you for joining us. We will see you back here tomorrow at 6. Have a great night and stay safe, everybody.